suggest taking a few off.
Right.
Because I think we complete. 58.
It does kind of make you feel bad that you've been on 16 years and you've been on 58 things we need to do.
That's what they identified.
That's what we got to stuff we missed. Redistricting, we ain't got that yet either too. Well, we did our part.
Yeah.
And the point. I noticed the other night in the meeting, your iPad got all cracked up after your phone, I saw.
Well, no, both my iPads are like that. One's personal, one's the county. Katie threw it across the yard and it broke.
Did your wife get mad? That's enough.
No, I think I had it 2 weeks, and when I went to pick this up, no, sorry, I closed it and I set on it, cracked the screen. It still functions accordingly. I've gotten all the, as I've swiped, I've got all the loose flags in my finger already, so it's clean.
Well, Katie asked me a hard question the other day. She said, what is your password? I said, was I supposed to remember that?
He's like, whoops. I've watched my
I
hands
said,
since the
hey,
day.
try this one. That don't work. Try this one.
And when you get in, put it back to this.
Well, you know, the state says you can't pass.
Sir?
You can't come back out of shirt for that.
Do you have an extra pen? I can get one out
I
of the
do,
car.
I do.
Alright. Well, it looked like we read 7 o'clock, or some people might say 1,900 hours. And I appreciate everybody coming tonight, and just for transparency, I understand Lynn Shackleton is not feeling well, and Mr. Costa, whatever, we're hoping you can bring up to speed in the decision making we made tonight, and then still get her feedback if we could through an email or something. So I'm calling this meeting to order, this work session for February 9th. Let me start with the education. I want to thank John sent me a text today, just so y'all know, and I think I heard something from Spike Zumbo. He also sent me a text that said that Doug Stanley's father died. So anyway, and so that's that county administrator in Prince Edward. And I think he's originally from Prince Edward. I think. No, I'm not sure about that.
I know it's falling,
Okay.
follows over in those sites.
So I know you had lost your father-in-law too, and so we're just going to keep them in the prayers. All right, so let's go to Father. Lord, again, we thank you for this time that we can come together. Lord, we lift up one thing that we all have in common in this room, that we've suffered at one time, maybe losing a loved one. And Lord, we just lift Doug up, and we know that Lynn's not feeling well. We lift her up, and other family members, and some people here that just maybe just have an unspoken need that they don't want to share, but only you would know. So we lift that as well. We just ask you to bless this work session, guide us and lead us, and help us become better representation for this county. And through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And also I want to recognize Kathy Kingery. I appreciate you coming tonight, and Andrea and Buddy. I think, we got to do the pledge of allegiance. Let's get on to the country. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Is this where you got anything you want to say, little buddy? Is this?
I'd say, let's roll it.
All right, buddy. It looks like you did a lot of renovation, but can you keep it within 10 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me actually come back down.
Okay. Oh, so you operate a big screen from up there?
Correct. Yeah, well, you know what, I operated that meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually operated anywhere, so the way this is set up, so welcome everyone to the new renovated EOC, not the new one. You can actually work it from down here, so anybody running a meeting will have the keyboard, can have the mouse, you can run anything on the screen, sound, the whole deal. We also, just to kind of show you what's going on here, there's 4 devices that display in here, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the switcher. And the switcher will allow us to do anything simultaneously or separate. So we have like 2 news stations going, 2 presentations going. We can mix it up, match it up, how we want to do it. And you can walk in with your iPad, And we have a mirror button on this. This is touchscreen too.
Right.
You can do a mirror button, and anything you hold, laptop or iPad, you sit here and just click it.
Oh, wow.
And it'll throw it to anything you need. So you have that capability. We have full virtual capability. I need to play with this a little more. Wish we could have done it tonight. But you have a full room. It does the entire room. So you can do a virtual meeting two-way.
Okay.
A full sound bar up top. And I'm gonna test that in a minute for you.
Okay.
And then you got the microphone built in. So basically we do like we did that time with Melody, where we had the small camera.
Yeah, right,
No,
right,
fine.
right. When we're doing,
But it's so much more enhanced, and we can zoom this camera around with remote control. So there's a remote control behind John that actually allow us to do anything with Zoom. We can actually box out what you want to show
right.
and the whole deal from the other end. Some of the other features in here, other than TVs, in the sound system, of course, digital clock, military time. We have over here where Andrea is, we have a network connection, so it ties straight into our government network. And we also have a HDMI. So Lauren can bring her dispatch laptop over and sit here and monitor what's going on with the CAD system
I got you.
over dispatch, or anyone with a computer can plug in over here. We have dedicated circuits on generators. They're all labeled. And let's see, basically a whiteboard going up in the corner, maps going over behind Ted, and we've got a bunch of chairs. Now, good news is all the furniture didn't cost us anything.
Oh, wow.
Got it from LRA. So we just shipped it in today. Inmates brought it in, 5 inmates, set everything up. We tweaked it, measured it, put it all out,
When did we have it down at the LRA? Was it
various places.
one of the buildings?
There was a lot of stuff. We had a lot. Yeah.
I got
Yeah, so we were lucky we had one nice conference table because we wanted one like this.
Oh, yeah.
This is good. So, if you would, don't pull on the phones tonight. I need to extend the lines. They're tight. But we're gonna have enough to where you can actually pull one down here. And behind you, I just have that little rubber
you.
strip.
Yeah, I guess.
That's all we can do because it's concrete. But everything's hidden now. So, we'll have 2 phones now. Let's talk about the phones a minute. So it's 4 GCR pull 4 voice over IP lines in. Cat 6 and blue wires, you see 2 here, 2 there, and we can move them around. And what we're gonna do is the church group helped us to come up with a name for this, is we're gonna set up a community disaster line. And it'll be dedicated to 1 phone here.
Right.
So when we have an event, it's a 645 local number, it's an Nottoway County disaster line. And we talked about it, and they said they would staff it. They would actually send 1 person in staff during the event and just rotate. So out of the 4 lines, we have ample lines, and they have talk groups. So if we need to go to 10 lines, we can go to talk groups.
Right.
Right now, it's just 4 dedicated lines. And these go back to the government, so we can just hit extensions and talk to Ted or the sheriff or whoever. So all that's here. Let me give you a little demo, and then I'll turn it back over to you. So,
Well, and buddy, why are you doing that? Just, I'm curious, there was a lot of concerned parents today. Right, now we had a lockdown.
right.
Right, were we able to get involved with this, the school system in some way? I mean, could it get that bad? I mean, I guess,
Yeah, sure, it would.
Okay.
But we didn't hear about it today, so.
Yeah, that's still a little communication
We
gap
didn't
going.
get called.
Right.
And when I finally called up, basically he said everything was good.
Right.
Real good.
So the sheriff will be the one to call you and say, look, we might get open.
Well, he takes the lead on something like that.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and if it's a fire or something like that, but we're all play as a team, as far as everybody going out there.
Right.
But with him today, it was a law enforcement lead, and he said it was good to go. We talked.
Right.
We talked. So, but yeah, everything would come out, and when we opened this center up, this center would only be, and as Billy Coleman asked me one time, he said, "Is this a command center?" Yeah, it is. It's a EOC, it's a command center, it's a war room.
Right.
If you remember that time when they got Bin Laden,
Right.
we showed the picture of
They were in a room like
President Obama was sitting here and
Right.
all the staff, and they were looking. That's exactly what happens in a tornado. As you well know, ice storm. You were here, everybody was here. But you got so many tools in the toolbox now. So that was the goal.
Yeah.
And let me give you a couple of tools, and this is real quick. So I wanted to show you HERVAC. This is a program I've used for years. This is just for government. No one can sign up for this unless they have bona fide government credentials. And whenever we want to look at a hurricane, this is one of the best packages. This kind of outdoes what you see on TV. So I just want to show you real quick. I'm going to show you an archive storm, and I'll show you how this works. If it's an active storm, it's going to automatically be up here. And that's actually something going on today.
Mhm.
But that's out, in, what is that close to? Way out in the ocean. So that's going
Yeah, right near the ocean.
That's well, I can zoom. See?
But he doesn't know management, but he doesn't know geography.
I can zoom in and out. So basically,
It's Australia.
Cyclone Gabriel. Yep, it's the Australia. Okay, I'm good. I just saw blue water. I just saw water. But this is the interesting part. I can go to archive storms. Take a look at this. We can go to look at every storm that was in 22 in the world. And everybody was familiar with Ian. Look how many storms was in 22. It was amazing.
Wow.
That's worldwide.
Yeah.
I think I went back. Excuse me. Ian, Ian. Okay, so take a look at this. You can go back and look at an archive storm, and there's the path. And you remember seeing it on Channel 8. But see, we can go back and look at a current storm or a past storm, and this goes all the way back to 2002. We can even look at Isabel right now, if we wanted to go back and look. But you remember how this went across Florida, came up and went back into South Carolina? So this is how we can track, and it's very detailed. We can really bring it on in. And you can see where it played out around Roanoke. Came up through Danville, and it played out and went on up north. So this is just a little bit of the technology that we have. It's called HurrVac. And obviously, we've got many other packages on here.
Uh-huh.
And let me show you, we'll do a little test here, and we'll show you sound system. It's a little FEMA tornado video, 1 minute.
When the storm comes, the twister forms, and the wind starts ripping things away, you'll ask
You
yourself,
control your
how
sound with your
prepared
mouse.
or unprepared are you? Do you have a shelter, a safe place to go, something to shield you that's easy to get to? Is it stocked with all the things you need? Water, food, and batteries? What about your family, your kids? Do they know what to do, where to go, and how to stay in touch? If a watch is declared, a tornado might be on its way, getting ready to blow things away. Stay informed, wait for updates, and if you're outside or out for a ride, move close to somewhere you'll stay safe. When a watch becomes a warning, you have to act fast. Get to safety, do not delay. Go as low as you can and hold on tight until everything is all right. Once the storm has passed and you get the all clear, take your supplies. Now, you must be wise. Move carefully. Watch out for dangerous debris. Protecting yourself is a necessity. So before the storm comes, the twister forms and the wind starts ripping things away. Get prepared, make a plan, and practice what to do to stay safe. America's Prepare-a-thon. Be smart, take part, prepare. Get started today. Go to ready.gov/prepare.
Okay, so just wanted to let you hear the sound system, and we can crank it up. That was only probably halfway. Just anything video-wise we can show. Obviously, the Zoom works really well, and what I'm going to do is we've already started a little guide for all of you to where we tell you exactly which buttons to push, the input, output, and it's real simple. It's 4 things, 4 inputs, 4 outputs. And I'm going to leave that here laminated, have a county seal on it. We'll have some guides so people can come in and work it, and you'll be able to work everything in here. So, including the Zoom camera when you do virtual meetings.
Right.
But Ted wants me to come over and help out on all IT issues until we can get things going, and just be here, be here to watch over in case there's a troubleshooter and so forth, in case something goes wrong. But other than that, that's the system. You look around, you see what you have. Excellent job by Todd Martin.
Todd is the renovation?
Todd did the walls, and that was the problem we had with mold.
Yeah.
Mold, obviously, we would have been in here 6 months sooner, but the mold was what the holdup was. And then we had a floor issue. And Mr. Walker from Farmville got the low bid on the floor. So he put this LVT floor in. He did an excellent job on that. And I think that's going to last us for many, many, many years. But we were able to test the floor. We were able to test it environmentally. There's nothing in the building anymore on this side. It's all clean, and we go from there. So, any questions on the EOC?
Any questions, anybody got any?
We hope this is your EOC, we hope you enjoy it.
See, and I just want to say, board members, and, that we had that study, and some of the things they recommended was get us emergency coordinator, full-time, we did that. And I think they have to get the EOC straight, because we needed that. And I read the emergency response plan or
Yeah.
something, but that's like the third thing, so.
Yeah, and that's probably gonna be April. Just
Okay,
because we had this in the radio plan, we're ready to go, RFPs are going out this month. So we gotta get those out, because we wanna get them back in 90 days.
Alright.
But the EOP is next.
EOP, I said, yeah.
Well, the EOPs, let me brush on that real quick and I'll be finished. The EOP is gonna be really, really laid out for you. And we've already got staff members plugged into positions. Susan's got a spot, Greg has a spot, I have a spot, Ted has a spot. We all know what our role is, and it's all in there. And then when we roll the EOP out, we'll flip to the ESF. And as you remember, when you worked down here during the ice storm, these are gonna be down here too. We made these. I had Susan, we put the seal on it, we put all the ESFs, and this is a sample. We're gonna be able to go, and if we have VDOT.
For the non-emergency management geeks, ESF stands for Emergency Support Functions.
Right.
And there are
Sorry.
17, and there are different things like transportation, communication, hazardous materials, search and rescue.
17 of them.
Just, you call them as you need.
Okay.
So normally, and even when I worked at Isabel, which is probably the largest thing you'll ever see in Virginia, you don't even use all 17 of them. There's gonna be certain ones. ESF 6 for energy is gonna be a big one. So what we would do hypothetically, or just, somebody from Southside Electric shows up, ESF 6 energy, everybody will have a seat, everybody will have a sign, and we could even give you a telephone. And again, 4 phones won't go so far, but a lot of people use their cell phones, so we're gonna be in pretty good shape on that.
All right.
Yeah, so everything is here. If we have an event, all we have to do is come in, lay it out, and start working.
Okay. All right, any questions, anybody? Thank you so much, very professionally done, and we appreciate you being on that team, buddy, I really do.
I appreciate you being here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is the priority list. I said, just to be, so everybody knows kind of what happened, I sent an email to Ted and said, hey, these are some things I'd like us to talk about. And then he so kindly said, well, what about the other 50-something? I said, what 50-something are you talking about? Anyway, so I put the brakes on that to say, well, okay, well, let's look at, and you know how the life in the county is. And it hit me this wild, buddy. That storm was like coming up like February 4th, like Valentine's Day 2 years ago. I mean,
Yes, 2 years ago.
So,
Right.
So things, it's a living document. Things change, things shift. Solar 2 years ago wasn't one of our main things, but now it's starting to be a main thing. And so anyway, so if we could go through that, kind of get a feel, and then we'll keep moving on, and maybe we have to go back to it, Ted, like you said, circle back to that.
Yeah, so what I'll try to do is go through each of these items, and I'm giving you the updated status. So this isn't how did we get to the updated status, because something like what you just saw at the EOC, that was a lot of work.
Right.
But what you're seeing today, so this is where we are, and I can, talking with the chairman, let's do a couple of questions if you have a couple of questions, but if it looks like an in-depth discussion, then we'll make note of that number and come back to it at the end for more detail. Okay. Number one, IT staff, private relationship. We feel like this is completed and successfully being managed by another service provider. If you noticed in the write-up, there was a reference to a particular company that had been hired. That company underperformed, and we went with someone else. And we're getting great service out of them. But the staff believes this is done. This is complete.
Okay.
The audit RFP. All right, RFP responses are due tomorrow. I will tell you that we've already received 2. I won't say what companies, but certainly once those are opened, there'll be some information that I can give you next week at the meeting. But right now we have 2. It doesn't close until 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Website upgrade. This was launched. We got edits and updates, and basically I think we're into ongoing maintenance, and I believe that we can consider that complete.
Yeah, go ahead, that's fine.
On the website, one of the things I keep hearing from people about our codes and zoning and ordinances. Is that the website that we should be looking at uploading this stuff on, or is there some different number that's in this that we identify that?
As far as putting it on the website, we can.
Mhm.
The updating of those ordinances, that's another number.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying it's like, what number would upload now ordinances and codes and zoning so people can?
Right here,
Okay.
if that's something you all want to add onto it.
Well, I think that sometimes, that's a good point, because, I want people to be able to go to the website and then, I guess, navigate to find other things. And I think the first step was to get the website updated. I'm saying it right, to get the, and then it should be a section to say, okay, let's look at the ordinances, we go here, or the EOC, they go here to see pictures of it or something, I don't know.
I was just thinking, if they had this capability and they could go and define it themselves, unless they have a question, it might take some pressure off the staff if this stuff is uploaded available to the people.
We can add the ordinances, we can add the code as it exists. You'll see later, those are topics.
Right.
We can add what we have now. That's not an issue.
Right.
A lot of the thought process was you get it all current and presentable, and then one.
I have no issue with
But it
that. As long
doesn't,
as we got a
anything can be
time
loaded
frame.
at any time.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we got time frame, because if we do go to where we're doing a total review of the codes, ordinance and zoning, and as soon as it's done and adopted, then bam, it goes right on there, it's not gonna work, I have no problem with that.
So we'll make a note.
All right, I've captured that. All right, now number 4, policy review. This is all admin, and I'm just reading Mr. Anzavino's comment. No real policies in place, needs to be determined. There have been the development of some policies, like the tuition policy. We think that can be rolled into the personnel policy. There is a personnel policy, but yeah, this is basically, it's ongoing, a lot of discussion with Davenport about financial policies. I've gotten a copy of the animal control policies. So this is really just an ongoing, again, when you're given 52, some things get done faster than others. But that's definitely a work in progress.
Okay.
The new financial software, Katie obviously can speak to this, you can read for yourself. I'm kind of reading for folks that can't see the screen. The 2 vendor options, RFP or cooperative purchase is in consideration, but this is not an easy overnight project. This is an 18 to 24 month project. Anything you want to add or any questions?
I guess just clarification, it's not just our office, as you all know, it's the commissioners and treasurer. Now, neither of these platforms, there's one vendor that is just the golden egg. It's everything you could ever want if you want to put a lot of money into it. The platforms that we're seeing as options are much more financially feasible, and they give us just about everything we need. There's a reassessment portion of the commissioner's office that no matter where you go, they don't have it. It has to be contracted through someone else. Everybody knows that. She knows that. The vendors have made it very clear. It's just a matter of the auditing firm will have some input as well when they're chosen, because they all work with them. They have experiences with both of these companies. So I'm hoping that whatever audit firm is selected, they'll be able to help guide too.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, this may tie back into 3 as well, because one of the bigger things that I've heard is, all right, the citizens provide everything that we're working with already. And when they call in and pay the bill, they kind of pay a percentage because they're using the credit card. So what y'all are working on with the financial software, would this be working towards a goal where they can call in, pay their bill online, and not be assessed another fee?
Some of that's up to the treasurer.
Okay,
Ideally, the easier the platform, the less financial maintenance you have.
all right.
So ideally, yes, we could eliminate as much of that as possible, but some of it is up to the treasurer.
So taking a little bit further, so, because I'm not the computer guy, okay, but do we need a list of things that we would like to see on the website? Like he's made me think about it, like the audited reports maybe should be on there so people can see that we audited like we're supposed to. So maybe it's already there. But see, I should, maybe I need to first navigate it myself.
You're talking about
I know what's
the
on it.
county's financial
Yeah,
audit, they're on.
Okay, so can somebody help me say, okay, this was on that, what else do y'all want? You know,
Yeah, I mean, anything anybody comes up with, we can either do it or we can't. And if we can't,
Can't do
and
it.
it's not
Okay,
there,
all right. So we just know zoning's not on that right now.
Hopefully it is.
Okay, okay. All right.
do you have
All right, move on.
something, Andrew, do you have something to add?
Zoning ordinance is there. The zoning is somewhere in the vicinity of a GIS.
Yeah, oh yeah,
The
it's
actual
on one of the
zone.
drop-down menu options and
Right.
stuff.
And like the new comprehensive plan, that should be on that.
Yes, sir, that's
It's
under
not
current news,
Right, right.
under
Okay,
current
okay,
county news,
okay.
you can pull up the draft.
Okay.
I think the chairman is saying we need a work session on our website.
I was hoping not to say that, but, because people get real frustrated when they say, I can't find it, Steve.
Well, we
They
can,
do. They do.
Well, and I hope I clarify what the point I was making. The citizens are already paying for all of us to be here. They're paying for us to take their tax money, and then they get hit with another fee if they pay online. I mean, and that's the system that they've already paid for with their taxes to put in place. So it's kind of like, again,
That's why
double win.
Yeah, he is.
So I just want to
Yeah,
see
I
if we
didn't
can
think about it
clarify
that
that
way.
up.
All right, keep on Mr. Cosby.
all right, okay. The redevelopment, the budget process, so we did a partial implementation on this, the last year's budget preparation. We're really striving for a full implementation this year, and that's already underway. We offered up the past few days on the schedule for one-on-one meetings, and we had about half a dozen folks come in and talk to us and kind of review their budgets with us and present their justification. But you have the schedule for this year, so hopefully this will become muscle memory in a couple of years. All right, 7, and the numbers have gotten a little messed up here. 7 is the new pay and classification plan, and it's an up-to-date personnel manual. I mentioned earlier, we have this, the personnel manual is one of many of the policies. So this is a potential project the law firm selected for the RFP, and the board recognizes that they need this pay study, which will bring employee job descriptions up to an acceptable level and pay employees at market level, depending on which employees are included. Okay, so let me tell you where we are, and this will be reflected in my report for next week's meeting. When we engaged Sands Anderson through that RFP process, we specified that the firm selected would be able to do a personnel policy development. Okay. The first thing that they fired back to us was about a 30-page questionnaire. Ms. Tomer, Ms. Presley, and I had gone through that questionnaire. We put it out for comments to the constitutional officers so they could see what we had written with the question, do you or do you not want to be under the county's personnel policy? It's their option, they're different shops, and they all basically said no. So it's going to be a true county personnel policy without the constitutional officers. The questionnaire went back to Sands Anderson this week, and I expect to probably within the next month have a draft plan. The project cost on this gives us one option to do reviews. So staff will review it, obviously give it to the board to review, and once everybody's happy with it, we'll send it back. They'll make the adjustments, they'll repackage it, and it'll be available for you to adopt at that time. I'm hoping we can have a new personnel policy in line for July 1, so the fiscal year. Now, the personnel policy, in my mind, is the first step, because that's what you hire under, that's what you do discipline under, the whole deal. Okay, that's got to be right. That's got to be correct. And so much of what we're having to do now is fall back to what does the state say? What does the state say? Because our personnel policy is so out of date. All right. Once you have that, then you can kind of figure out, okay, where should people be? What's the starting point for people? What is the classification range? So that's when the classification range comes in. And there has been one done a few years ago by Robinson Farmer Cox. Maybe that could be quickly updated by someone to reflect current economic situation. But then you have your classifications, and now you've got people in a range. You've got them where they are. That's where their starting point. Then based, go to the next page, page 2, top of page 2, then you have your performance evaluations. Okay. It's sort of like, well, and I'm sure folks could argue, the chicken come first, the egg come first. That's how I kind of see this set up.
Here's gonna be the sticky wicket this year, I think, because it's very unusual that what happened with the state. I've been with the state for 35 years, so we get a 5% increase, and then they shoot us another 5%. And that was the way of they trying to get us realigned with the market value, because we're losing people. But what the questions will come: are we gonna do the 5% also, or have we already realigned some people? You see what I'm saying? Have we already realigned someone
That original study.
in the original study? So I somehow we got to break that down and make some budget decisions. Does that make sense to you? Do you?
I understand that the original study was never implemented.
Well, nobody. So you said nobody got realigned?
That's my understanding, because that was done before I was here.
Mr. Anzavino put some effort into, he and Logan both worked hard to get everyone in this rudimentary scale.
Right.
All right, so
It
that was.
hasn't necessarily been maintained that way.
Or what, I think if I understand what Steve's asking right, was that rudimentary scale based off of that study that was done, that salary study that was done, I think it came to y'all in 19. And I don't think we did anything with it till 21.
And it was only discussed at that point. It was never
I don't
adopted and
think it was,
implemented.
no,
Okay.
I don't remember.
It was
being
never
adopted. Mm-mm.
Or it may not have been implemented, but there was some serious adjustment to salaries. In 21, I believe it was.
Are you looking at me? Because mine was,
No,
my
I'm just-
position was changed too. Mr. Anzavino tried to work within, remember, John
We gotta
Prosice
take
and I had a
people. We
budget
gotta take
then.
people out. We gotta look at positions.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
John Prosice and I worked on this budget, Mr. Anzavino came in and we finished it.
And see, that's what I wanted to
And he took
clarify.
that dollar amount and tried to work within it.
Okay, all right, so that's what I want to clarify, because there was some adjustments made.
Correct.
And where were they made from? Was it that study? And if it's not, then I think, not just us, but clearly the public may have been under the perception that those were made off that. I thought it was.
Well, to see what I
No,
think maybe
it
this
was
is.
never stated that that was adopted and that that was what was being.
Oh, no, I know what's
He
adopted,
just put
but
an effort into getting us somewhere to start with.
Yeah, well, tell me if I'm wrong, but that, because I gotta be careful with talking about personnel stuff, I don't want to cross the line. But this is you, I think, I do remember like I want to say it was Susan, that some duties were changed, or she was doing things but was not recognized for those duties, which could change her out of a AOS position to another position. I can't remember, but what I'm getting at is, we still gotta make a decision. Right?
Well, and that again is kind of what that new pay and classification plan, and I've been through a couple of these. The people will come in, they'll do interviews, they'll do job comparisons, they'll look at work products and say, this is how this person should be classified, not only in title, but also in pay.
are you talking about getting all of that done on that July 1 time?
No, just the personnel policy.
Oh, well, I think
Right.
that's what I asked about, what you just brought up, Steve.
Well, see, what we gotta be careful, what we gotta be careful with, and I think that's what the state's running into. There's two different type of, you can get people, there's two different kind of realignments. You can get people realigned, for other facilities, other county facilities. And then you got realignment for the market value.
Right.
So I don't know, I think the market value is like here and other facilities are right here. I think, maybe it might have leveled out, I don't know, but this stuff like that, we really gotta take a look at it. What I'm saying is, instead of just, I don't wanna rubber stamp something but then I want people to be treated fairly too. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
and I would say this, yeah, when you go back to what your original caution was here, and I'm agreeing with you, I think what may end up happening is that without some sort of evaluation scale, if the county tries to keep up with the state, who has
Yeah, right, yeah, that's it.
because they would have gotten a 10% raise over 2 years like the state did,
Yeah.
and they're out here struggling with.
If you was on performance improvement plan, you didn't get the 5%.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's just the way it is. You wouldn't get any bonuses either. They was
Yeah.
giving no bonuses a while, so if you was on any type of evaluation problem, you're not getting.
All right, well,
And there are people like that.
we're looking at,
Is
for the
this
date,
one we want to come back to?
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you know, I didn't put budget on the list, but budget is always on the list. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
We're gonna come back to the 2.7.
Thank
Okay, all right. The strategic plan for the board, this was initiated pretty much last year. If you remember, we did the little exercise where I asked everybody to rank 5. Some people couldn't follow directions, we ranked 12, but that's okay. We moved along.
was that all I gave you?
That's all 6, I guess.
But anyway, okay, so we got through that process. The big project I think you'll see coming up later was the public safety communication system. But I really believe that we stay focused on these projects. This is pretty much in and of itself a bit of a strategic plan. However, what I would propose for the new board coming in 2024 would be a facilitated retreat. This is fairly common practice, kind of an icebreaker for any new board members coming on, and kind of,
Do you have to advertise? What's the rules on a retreat?
I'd have to look into that, but I know that they've been done. I think you give notice that there will be a retreat, and off you go.
You know what they call it, right? Retreat. What they retreating from?
Well,
Trying to retreat from the citizens?
well, if it's managed right, UVA Weldon Cooper Center facilitates these.
Oh, you get a facilitator.
Yeah, you get an outside facilitator. Yeah, you definitely get an outside facilitator.
Yeah, we are getting so many, I'm looking,
It's
I'm not saying we're doing a retreat, I'm not saying that, but I'm not gonna use that term, we gotta come on another term. No, but a big old work session. But anyway, I do think that, there's so many different products across the county, I don't think, you know, solar is more of a problem to me right now, because people think a solar facility is going over to District 1, and it may not be for anybody else, you know what I'm saying? That's the, anyway. Okay, can we put that in a box and put it over in the corner for right now?
Sure.
Okay.
It needs to be brought up, Steve, again.
Yeah.
All right. Administrator's office record management, we believe this is, well, all that particular task was to reach out to the Library of Virginia to gather information on records. How should they be held and for how long? That's been done.
Okay.
And we're following those recommendations.
Gotcha.
All right, developing a program to digitize county records. Record management role has been established. It's annual minutes are current on the website. That's another thing that's being posted on the website. Files in the administration office are being reviewed, and what we're doing is we're boxing out that which we can have to retain and for how long, and we are destroying what we can destroy. We just try to get out some of the clutter in the office,
Okay.
and we're doing that with the steps contract.
Okay.
Okay. So that's an ongoing. Establish electronic filing system, verify records. That's kind of pretty much tied to the one above.
Yeah.
The volume of documents to be digitized is going to be determined by what we have to retain, how long we have to retain, and then whether or not, how much it would cost to digitize all of that.
Step 2.
It's basically step 2. Staffing, organizational analysis, staffing plan. This has gotten better with the 2 additional hires. That's a net gain of 1. So we have the 1 new hire, full-time hire, is Mr. Hyde. And that was a result of those 2 studies that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
The other hire has been Mr. Zodi, who effectively is doing what Mr. Procyse did, just a different title. Now we did hire a part-time fiscal technician. This is the individual who's been pretty productive in catching up the backlog on landfill billing. And we think that this might be worthy of a full-time position, as well as an additional animal control officer, particularly when we move into the new shelter. One of the things that you'll see later on is a desire by some of the citizens to have a volunteer organization, and under state law, you can't have volunteers in the shelter without a certified animal control officer. Okay? Complete update for the procurement system. That's complete. All programs have been provided to policy and forms. They've been briefed on the procurement, and I would say that procurement's being followed to a T. Okay. FOIA management, the request has kind of slowed down, but we do have a process in place. That's again, Andrea. This has become routine and it's fairly, I'd say we mark it as complete.
So 12, 13 complete.
I would say so.
Okay, all right.
Broadband, the engineering work is ongoing. Now, what they're doing right now is they're seeking what they call a hub site in Nottoway County. They,
I know.
yeah,
What does that mean?
Sounded big.
think of it like a telephone system, think of it like.
Yeah, we got hubs at
Yeah,
Piedmont.
switching, yeah. The staff, now they suggested a site, they wanted some information on it, and we provided the information, but we said, hey, you know what, we got some LRA property right down the road from us. You know, so I think they're gonna go back and try to re-engineer and see if they can make it work on our site. They are already deploying in the field, staking, basically, our preliminary route lines.
Okay.
So it's starting to happen now.
Yeah, that's actually beginning, if I could.
Sure.
That's actually starting on February 19th. What they're going to do is start staking some of the sites. So, because we're kind of one of the last localities, I guess, on the chain. Start off with Pennsylvania, go to Charlotte, I believe Campbell, and then also Bedford. And we're like right toward the end, but they're going to start staking the things, which involves them going out in the field. Their plans are almost finalized, river streets, as well as when they go out to do the staking for the home sites, for the user sites, they'll also be looking for obstacles so they can identify those and overcome those to delay the project, in order to avoid delaying the project.
If you'll recall, we're having to do this with West Piedmont Planning District Commission, so we're to the east of their whole district. However, the way that the engineering process is working is they're creating hubs in all the different localities. So once they have the hubs, they'll start build out for the hubs and everything will connect. So, but they're really not going west to east or east to west. It's hubbing. Okay. Recodification of county ordinances is this potential project for law firm or specialty consultant, some of whom were approached at JCO by Ms. Comer. So the question's been posed to Sands Anderson, can you take this on, or should we go out to municipal code or some other entity? Staff has been sorting out current provisions of the county codes in anticipation of moving forward. All right, county attorney selection process, number 16, done. Full-time.
How often are we supposed to do that?
How often do you want to do it? I would say at least somewhere between 3 and 5.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I thought that at one point it was 3 items, and I actually wrote this down here, insurance, county attorney, and auditor, that at one time the discussion was like yearly with a potential for an extension of a second or third year behind it. There was at least some discussion and about that at one point. I kept on telling maybe sometime in 2021. But I think it's something with it. I mean, it's just taxpayer money. I mean, I think.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how you gotta have, you gotta establish a relationship with them. Can you do that in a year? Well, you don't really have to have a relationship with them. I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah, you just need to do the job.
Yeah.
From an auditing standpoint, it is very difficult when you're changing yearly.
Okay.
And I'll just say, folks, if you were doing something like this yearly, all we'd ever be doing is writing RFPs and.
I hear you. I get you.
You know,
So what you said 2 things. It was the county county,
well, Mr. Rourke said the attorney, the insurance,
And the auditor.
and the auditor. So the auditor, I can tell you, the RFP is out for a 3-year period. A 3-year period.
But that goes to what you were saying there about an auditor. So yeah, I'd be fine with that. It's like I said, that's a
That's
3-year
pretty
deal.
standard.
Okay.
So what
All right,
we can tag the master calendar to say in 3 years since Sands Anderson was hired, so that's going to be 2 years out. Consider.
And see, that's what you run into. I mean, it's hard to track it. I mean, I'm telling you, like you get you board next time and they'll just go on with that Sands Anderson. So we need something in place to say, something that pops up on your phone.
You need an inspection sticker.
Yeah, right. That's a good way to put it. But
Well, we're trying to use a yearly master calendar just outside my office, and we're tagging stuff on there.
oh, yeah, how you doing it?
Yeah, and we caught
That's
today.
a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. So we can go out a 5-year calendar or whatever and say, okay, 3 to 5 years, whatever you all want to do. I would do at least, I wouldn't do less than 3, or else we're just going to
Okay.
constantly
All
do
right. Well,
RFPs and
all right.
review. Okay,
We just put that in the box right now and let us think about it.
okay,
All
all
right.
right.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, one quick thing on the recodification, we jumped quick, but I just had one question. This, recodification for the county ordinance, when we say ordinance, we're talking ordinance, codes,
Everything.
and zoning.
Everything.
And this is also where we've already gotten, support from Blackstone and Burkeville, verbally and in writing, to move forward with this, because I believe Blackstone is in the, preparing to do theirs this year, and it'd be great to have that overlap. If everybody could get on the same page, if Crew and Burke was looking to do it too, I said we bring everybody to the table. So, and I use this on a moving scale. Let's say it was 1 through 10. So the county's redoing theirs, the county's covering 1 through 5, 6 through 10 is covered through the towns, and there's no more finger point, and everybody knows who's enforcing what. And it's just I think it's going to be a great way to move forward. And once again, it's an opportunity for the counties working with the 3 towns. So.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay, so, full-time emergency management coordinator, if you haven't noticed, that's been done. Mr. Hyde's here. 18, this is the after-action fire study review and implementation. One of the things, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, we've hired Mr. Hyde. Implementation of the programs are being made throughout the program, such as the EOP update, which you'll see later on the list, the EOC upgrades, and working with volunteer agencies, and that's all ongoing. I think once we knock out the EOP, we could probably move this one to complete it. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think it's being done more so with the agencies, but that's another item I'll speak to in just a moment. 19, this is the public safety. It says radio system. I like to call it communication system because it all starts with 911. It all starts with picking up the telephone and being able to get through and get things dispatched. The retained engineering firm has completed their assessment of the system. They have drafted an RSP, which is under review by the fire and EMS work group that Mr. Hyde has helped form. As to the fire and EMS work group, that is essentially the old association. Kind of been recrafted and expanded. Forestry sitting in, Blackstone Fire Department sits in occasionally. Lauren with the communications is there out of the sheriff's office. So there's, sometimes I slip and just call it the first responders group, but it's the fire and EMS work group. Emergency management plan update, as you heard from Mr. Hyde, we're looking in April for adoption.
Okay.
Now that plan does not unlike a comprehensive plan, that plan does not need a public hearing. But we'll get it out to you in plenty of time so you guys can read through it and be familiar with it. Improve the emergency operations center short term. That's basically this facility. Upgrade substantially complete and back in use. We're using it tonight, kind of beta tested it. And thus available for any event with additional phone lines, video support. I don't know if you all noticed, but to me, it smells better.
No, that's.
I'm not choking up. I'm not choking up. I don't have the mold gag going. So
It was tight.
yeah, we uncovered some mold here. We uncovered some interesting mechanical things. Apparently, running water pipes and sewer pipes through air ducts makes sense to someone somewhere sometime. Improved coordination with fire and EMS funding. Okay, the going through the budget now, right now. This I call it the rebranded group, but it's the fire and EMS working group. They're representing all the agencies. They are providing and sharing input through Mr. Hyde. I have attended all but one of their meetings since this group has come together, and they're working very well. They're talking to each other. They're sharing ideas. They're giving each other. It's just it looks like a good team getting built. So My inclination is to take, Katie and I spoke with this yesterday. My inclination is to take the result from this group and drop it in the budget, no questions asked, because I think it would help spur that process along. And believe me, it is everybody has seen what everybody else is asking for, and they seem to have bought it. Animal control volunteer program, I think I already mentioned this. Space we have now, that's just not suitable or safe for this. This is basically, and I would ask that it continue to be on hold just for liability issues with not having folks have to come into the shelter to work as a volunteer.
Yeah, if it's gonna put us at risk, no.
I mean, just driving into the landfill could put you at risk of a piece of equipment getting moved around or something. Establish a financially sound capital plan. So we did a rudimentary plan last year. This is a budget issues. These are the budget issues that have long-term impacts concerning financing, how long it takes to get a project up and running, how long the project might last. This is we're continuing to provide Davenport with information as they help us craft this. I think you all have met with Davenport. You've heard their strategy on how to go about leveraging some of your reserves to get a project started, but then coming back to a bond program and getting those reserves recaptured. This is just, Mr. Bowen, you said all of these have to do with the budget. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. This is related to so many projects throughout. All right, the animal control facility, number 25, the design firm was directed to proceed to construction documents for your review in anticipation of going to bid. I'm thinking March or April, we should see those.
Okay, March or April.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a big one. Courthouse facility plan implementation and new emergency operations center. All right. The pulley house has been removed, and even as of today, they were dropping in some dirt and spreading some dirt to stabilize that area. This is obviously another big capital project, and it's been somewhat overcome by just catching up on the county complexes maintenance. We've done everything from rail and gutter repair. Septic tanks have been pumped for the first time in approximately 20 years, as well as the ABM energy efficiency project, which is ahead of schedule. Again, it's a consideration for the FY24 CIP. Now, development of this facility can include a multi-purpose room to serve as an EOC, adjacent to the sheriff's office as well as the registrar's office. So you say, well, why in the world would we do an EOC when we just did all this? This can be a nice meeting room. This can be a nice backup EOC. This can be a nice overflow EOC. But there's a lot of advantages to having your EOC adjacent to your comm center, immediately adjacent to your comm center. Registrars.
All right, let's come up for air right there. So because I don't want to, further we go, we're talking older and older news. Okay, so we got some more stuff on the agenda. So we can come up for air, we stop on page 4 and go to page 5. And we're not, the priority list stays. Okay.
Okay.
I want to go to D for a minute. Okay. Because D might take 40 minutes. Okay. and we're going to address it tonight. All right. So thank you, Mr. Costa. So, and if the board would just bear with me. So, the new mayor of Blackstone, he contacted me just to reach out to have a conversation. And so, we had a pleasant conversation. He brought Phil there with him. And, in that process, and I tell you what we talked about, and I'm the one who started out. I said, listen, I want us to have a collaborative relationships, and I don't want us to do anything to damage our relationship. Our 3 towns mean a lot to us. When they are successful, we are successful. Okay, and so I gave them an example that you know, we upped the tipping fees, okay? And when we upped the tipping fees, we didn't really have a conversation with the towns, you know, and they come back at us, you know, and say, whoa, you realize what it's costing us, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't think about that. Maybe we should have had them at the table, Yeah, and I told him, I said, I'll take ownership of that. I looked at 1970 fees, and that's back when you wore disco britches, and so it was time to bring them up. But it has a domino effect. It affected Crew, affected Burkefield and Blackstone, and then, and we had these hard conversations that went on. Okay, so let's don't do that anymore. Let's forget about the past and try to move forward. Okay.
Steve, we set these fees and things.
Right.
There were 2 or 3 of our chairman and vice chair.
Right.
The mayor of Birdville and some others were on. Blackstone had the mayor and the president.
Right.
And we sat and discussed those
President.
things. Huh?
The president.
Yeah.
They got a
It was Roosevelt then. I'm messing with you.
Eric is their president.
Yeah, right. I get you. But you're exactly right. I mean, you're exactly
Yeah,
right.
but-
So
We should have brought those people in again before we set those fees.
I agree, and that's what, and I told him, I said, I'm not speaking for the board, but I felt like I had y'all's pulse on that, because we went, I think I've had a conversation with Helen, she said, man, Cruz, breathing down my neck on this one, because of the fees and things like that. So anyway, so I took ownership, all right. So during that conversation, I said, I think we talked about, they had a trouble with an animal, and we had a little conversation about that. And one of the words I was trying to say, how can we help? Well, we had this situation happen and da-da-da. And let me back up. I invited Mr. Roy because, again, he's the vice chairman, and I don't know if I'm going to run again, and if I do run, I'm darn sure I'll get elected. But I want succession planning. I want whatever conversation we had in the room, it goes on. Believe it or not, I found out the world don't revolve around Steve Bourne. It goes on. And that's very important for local government, nowadays especially. But it was a good conversation. Well, Blackstone said, and then I always be careful. If you don't know the answer to the question, be careful when you ask the question. I said, what can I do for you? Well, and they were very kind. So they talked about boundary line adjustments. Now, and I said, well, hold on, and I stopped. I said, I'm not making any commitment. Anything that we talk about today, I have got to have full support of the board. Did I not say that? So anyway, so I said, but make some reasoning to me, and then we'll figure out what we need to do. Well, one of the boundary line adjustments, which is almost like the same situation Crew did, Crew wanted to get the whole Westerns Hotel in their boundary line. They didn't go. I think the boundary line went right through the swimming pool, and they just wanted. They won't take in any agricultural land in that area. They just said, "Hey, we want it here," and I think we voted to proceed with a public hearing. For that request. Okay, so they had the same thing at the Methodist Center. Okay, that evidently the boundary line, not the whole Methodist Center, is in the town of Blackstone. I said, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know it. I said, well, so Philip says, well, we just want to go and get a couple buildings in the back. He got a name for the buildings, John. I can't.
Yeah, something I think with some boys or something these people.
You see, some cat, right? And I said, okay, that makes sense. I'll talk to. I got a work session coming up, so I'll talk to the board. Now, here's the one that is sticky wicky. Okay. But they made a point. The schools, in their opinion, and I'm gonna have to agree with them schools that's near the Blackstone Primary that is still owned by the school board is blight. Okay, so
You're talking about the intermediate school, the old high school.
that's right. So what they, and we had a good conversation, and Ben says, Mayor Green says, hey, Steve, I want to do this thing the right way. Technically, Blackstone can say, hey, it's blight, y'all got to put money into it and fix it. And I don't want to do that. Or we can surplus it, turn it over to Blackstone, they'll tear it down, we'll work with them on the tipping fees at the landfill, and they remove all the asbestos. and then they can make something there, ball fields, basketball courts, whatever they want to do to improve that part of town in Blackstone.
Did they tell you why it's blighted? Did they tell you?
No, we didn't, I don't know why.
Did you suggest that they go back and look at the contract? And if they would go back and look at the contract, they were supposed to keep up those buildings.
Okay. Well, it's past that.
I think we're beyond that.
Yeah.
That's a good point, but I think we're way beyond that, because you can drop a bus on the top of that.
I know we're way beyond that, John.
Yeah, right.
But I'm just telling you what the contract is.
So that's why I want to take, on D, I want to take one thing at a time, okay? So, my suggestion, I'm just talking to the board now. I think we ought to send a letter to the school board and request them pretty much to surplus it. If they surplus it, we own it.
They surplus it.
We really own it, but it's the craziest thing, but if they surplus it, we have the right to do what we want. So it's multiple steps here, right, Mr. Costa? Okay. So the first step would be to send, in my opinion, is to send a letter to the chairman of the school board and say, hey, we want you to consider surplusing this so we can get these buildings taken down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Bowen, to your point there, I can't remember if I told you guys in the meeting or not, but, we're talking about doing our zoning ordinances and codes. The county doesn't have a blight abatement, which is a serious issue.
Right.
But I'll go to something that's even more scarier. Our law enforcement is dealing with meth and other drugs at all the time. Now, this building is right next to a ball field. There is nothing for a drug addict or a sex offender to grab one of the children and do an assault in one of these buildings. And it's just.
Are you all familiar with the building, John? You have one building that's there that was built in 1976. It was a cafeteria. And it's still in good shape. It's full of junk, old desks and stuff like that. Now, the red building, you can take that down. Each piece has been numbered. So that can be taken down and sold. You got 4 rooms in that building. The building that's the blight building is the 1951 building that was the home economic and the home economic building, basically, and the library was located there.
How many buildings is it, Mr. Vaughn? I can't remember. Is it 4? 3? Is it 3? Okay. All right.
What he's talking about is, because when I went through there in school in there, the small building was 5th grade, the big building was 6th grade.
Okay.
And then there was a little building that is now used by Mrs. Vaughn Wilson's group.
Working with the children.
Right.
That's
the old library.
Bill, right.
That's the old
Are
library.
they talking about that and taking that one down?
No,
Okay.
no, I think it's just the 2 structures, and what they were talking about doing was the brick is going to a company, so the brick's not coming to the landfill. The brick is going to get repurposed through a company. They're going to come in with a crusher and do all that. That's not coming to the landfill. They're going to remove the asbestos, and basically what Nottoway would get would be the wood.
They're talking about 2 buildings, Steve.
Okay.
They're talking about the annex. The old Blackstone High School burned and the annex didn't burn. They're talking about that building right across the street from where Nottoway used to live. And they're talking about the one across the street, which is the old primary school building back in the 20s and 30s and 40s. That's what they're talking about, those 2 buildings.
Right.
They let those buildings go down.
All right.
So they do need to be torn down.
All right, let's say it. So I'm gonna say we in the school board, we own a certain amount of land right there in the middle of the town. Okay, well, of course, we do, Blackstone Primary is still there. So they haven't really given me a boundary line of, how they have.
When I spoke with them the other day, the fellow was in the process of getting with an engineer. If I remember that correctly, to have those 2 plots laid out correctly to present.
All right, so what I'm asking the board tonight is, would y'all be willing to me to send a letter to the chairman of the school board and request to them to surplus the two buildings or all three buildings?
I would just surplus the location.
Surplus the location.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Blackstone's okay keeping the other building.
That's right.
Right, okay. Would,
Yeah, I'll be fine with it.
You wanna keep that 76 building because it's really in good shape. It has terracotta floors, it has,
you just the one that got the hole in the roof?
yeah, no, it doesn't have a hole in it.
I'm trying to find the communication that I have from Dr. Grimes, but she was very specific that it was only the one-story building. Yeah,
What-
I got it right here. I put a question to her, sending her a copy of minutes from when the board said that they would be willing to take the debris from the demolition project, as long as it didn't have asbestos and other hazardous materials in the landfill. And I sent it to her, and I said, has there been any movement on declaring this property surplus? Any property for that matter. She gave me a breakdown of 3, but since we're talking about Blackstone, I'll just read you that one. There is not a plan currently in place to surplus the old Blackstone Intermediate School buildings, plural. We have an agreement in place with the town of Blackstone to demolish the one-story building. The fate of the two-story building remains undetermined. In addition, we also have a lease for the property with the town, and this lease runs through 2037.
But that's Grimes talking, right?
Yes.
So that's not, what I'm saying is, it's not the official, right? I want to send a letter.
That's why I'm
Right.
saying it's just, from my understanding, it's just the one-story building.
Mr. Chairman, as I understood, that's the reason why I said location. Blackstone's ready to do some with these structures. I think the appropriate thing to do would be to send a letter and ask the school to surplus the entire
They need to
location.
do
Well,
something with that.
Here's what I think, okay, so I'm throwing this out
That's
there.
what I'm saying.
We asked the town of Blackstone to send us a letter that says, hey, we want this property to be turned over to Blackstone, okay? We send out a letter and say, see attached, you know what I mean? And says, this is the way we, and then please put it on your agenda for a vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fair because.
And then maybe, they'll have to do a public hearing, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then people can go and say, hey, you need to support this, da, 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 da. Because, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Bond, about maybe the building's in good shape, maybe it needs to stay. But if the citizens, you say, come to the public hearing and say, no, it doesn't need to stay. It needs to come down and we need to do something nice, I guess, so these kids have a nice place to stay or play. Then that's what we have to do.
I'm saying the primary, the grades, first, second, and third, that building needs to be torn down.
Okay.
I'm saying that the annex needs to be torn down.
Okay.
I'm saying 2 buildings don't need to be torn down, and that's the mill building and the cafeteria.
What he's talking about is the cafeteria that's attached to the two-story structure.
Yeah,
The two-story structure, if I'm
Yeah.
understanding you, Mr. Vaughn, he's saying too, the two-story structure should probably come down. And I guess, Mr. Vaughn, what we may ought to consider is when you reach out to Blackstone, this building and this cafeteria, do y'all see a use for this, or is it your intent to tear it all down and then?
That's it, just showed me where the line, where they
Yeah.
wanted it.
Okay.
That's what.
Is that pretty much okay?
Mr. Costa, you understand what I'm asking, and then that way we have some in writing, then I can send that letter attached with, and what we'll do is, we'll come up with a letter, send it out, let everybody read it, and then try to get it, moving, so it will be on their agenda. And then let the citizens, I got a feeling that Blackstone is going to say they want, let the public hearing, let it be the public hearing. And then we listen to what they say.
you really don't need a public hearing for that.
No, that would be Blackstone, I think he's talking about. Blackstone.
Yeah, Blackstone would have to do a public hearing
Yeah,
for
that's
the boundary line, right?
There's no boundary line there.
No, that was just only for,
I don't know if the cost associated would require a public.
If you're
hearing.
disposing of property, you have to do it.
public hearing, I think so. I think it might be one.
Yeah.
Anyway, which is good, because you get to hear, well, sometimes
Well,
it's good,
also
sometimes
real-
it's so good.
Real property, if you were.
Real. So I'll get you to work on that. Well, have a conversation with the town of Blackstone, see if you can get that, get that letter from them, and then we'll move now. Is the board okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
You don't need a conversation. I'll have them send you a letter.
Oh, we got a town council guy here. Thank you, Chris.
We'll get that to you.
Okay, all right, good deal. All right, so now, of course, you know the rule. I don't know one. I don't know one matter. I gotta see another matter. Anyway, just to fill the pulse and see what. I'm planning to try to meet with Phil Miskovic, hopefully next week, the first part of the week. Now, we already have a boundary line request from them. We have put that out. That's the key motel. But Mr. Costin, you've had more conversations.
Yes.
And I did not have any conversation about this. I'm not fair, right? I mean, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I communicated to Mr. Scudder that the Rich Inn boundary line adjustment, which you all had before you last month, that you all were agreeable to that. It was initiated by the actual landowner, and it's only for that property that the hotel is on. The line does split the pool, does split the building, and the next lot over, which they want to use for development. It's an open field. Okay. You all had all that before you. You said, yeah, we're amenable to a boundary line adjustment. Mr. Scudder came back and said, well, rather than just do this little boundary line adjustment, excuse me, we want to revisit the boundary line adjustment that was pending when I got here 18 months ago. He said, I think we would like to present that in a more professional manner, something beyond the little hand sketch, done with the arrows out to who owned what property and whatnot. So we've been working, Greg's been working, Ms. Tucker's been working to help them show that on the GIS system. Okay. So all I can tell you is I would anticipate that they will seek that boundary line adjustment again.
Okay. But we have already voted. Yes. Here, point of procedure now. We have already voted to advertise, and I believe it was a 5-0 vote. Okay, so
For just the Rich.
so that means to flip that around and say we're not going to advertise. We need 2 people to say they want to flip that around, right?
No,
get it back on the table.
Right, and Ms. Bourne's point, I don't think I would do that because this is called economic development for that property, and I think you need that public hearing in place. And then at a different work session, if they want to do a presentation, because I remember you said something,
Right.
you like to maybe start moving the presentations over work sessions.
Right.
Let them finish this with the GIS and with Greg.
Right.
And if they want to bring it to us at a work session, because I know you typically got another one planned March 9th.
Right.
Let them bring the presentation to the board then.
Okay.
But I don't see a reason to hold this gentleman up.
Yeah. In other words, because if you wrap that up with the other
Yes, sir.
boundary line, you might blow the whole thing. Then half the key motel is still, the pool is still in the county.
He's ready to get to work. He's ready to do something, and these permits that he would need to actually bring money to the town of Crew. So I say, let's not hold him up, and let's stay with the public presentation.
So what they wanted was to bring this in with what we've already discussed.
Right. I didn't have a conversation with him, but Ted did.
No.
Okay. That's what I want you to know. I want me to completely tell you what's happening like that. And I think
Well,
that
see,
was.
Burkeville did the same thing. Burkeville had the same adjustment, boundary adjustment. So we had voted on that. It's dead.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, so
Oh, I thought he
I'm
was
gonna.
talking about this one.
Right, so that's next on. Hold on a minute. I just found this out this evening, so just hold tight. All right. That's why I said we gotta come up for air. I had to stop the other part.
But,
We need to do the one that we already have on the table to do.
Thank you. I
And
agree.
then if there's if somebody else wants boundary line adjustments or whatever, they need to bring it to us then in a future date. But we need to not hold up.
So the next public hearing we have is what they have already asked for.
yeah, because that's
Yeah.
all we
The
voted
key
on.
motel.
The key motel.
Key motel,
Okay.
Well,
that's it.
Mr.
Right
Chairman,
now.
let me be clear.
And I meant to say something. Helen she passed away.
She did.
Yes, she did.
Just passed.
Should have said something about it.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, and I don't want to speak for Ms. Simmons, but I think we probably, since we're both right there with Crew, this is not saying that we're not going to listen to anything anybody may
Nobody
bring.
said that. The
Right,
only
that's what I'm
thing-
saying. I wanna make sure
The only thing
that
that
that's
was
clear.
said, and I said very clearly, we've already discussed the rich end.
Alright.
We've already discussed doing the boundary line adjustment there, and we had a 5-0 vote. That's what we wanted to do. Nobody's saying anything about what crew wants now with this same boundary line adjustment. We have not made a decision on that. Because before, what we did was, because Burkeville had asked for a boundary line adjustment and crew, we decided not to do either one of them.
And I would just say that to that point, is what I'm saying is, I don't wanna hold this guy up in this economic development, but at the same time, Crew, Burkeville, Blackstone, y'all bring us all your boundary line adjustments, let's have conversations, let's do some things in parts and not all at once, and let's take these things slow. This is not saying we don't wanna engage in what they may bring at a later date, I just don't
We
wanna hold
will
this
listen
up.
to what they want, but we can't do it right now.
Well-
We need to go forward with what we have.
And to clarify, Mr. Costin won't push it either way. Evidently, their town manager contacted him.
Right.
I had simply informed him in an email about y'all's decision.
Mhm.
Right, I figured it's
You're right.
and that what I got back was,
He
well,
wanted to tack
we
that on
wanna
too.
push the whole.
Right, and see, public reception is everything. So it almost looks like, you know, if you do that, well, you don't let the camel's head up under the tent, now he gonna eat everything, you know, I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, that's what is right, I mean, that's, if I was sitting there, if I was triple R Dairy, I would go, what in the world? I mean, cause, they got that agricultural land right there.
I mean, I would say this too, if I was sitting in Crew, I'd be like, let's take the shot. You know, I
Oh, you
don't-
would go for the big thing.
What I'm saying is, why not ask? Doesn't
Oh,
hurt to
I
ask.
see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, it doesn't hurt to
Right.
ask.
And
but-
have a conversation.
Right, but I think this is a total different, it would back up and possibly hold this guy up, and then we'd have to go to another public hearing because we've combined the two, if the other one was shot down.
Now, when I do, I don't have an agenda, so when I meet with the mayor, I'm not bringing that up, he wants to bring it up, but I will just tell him, hey, you got a long ways to go, and you need to do a presentation with that board and on a work session. I mean, and that's what I'm trying to do. I want to have work sessions that we get presentations so the public has more time to speak.
If it was brought up the right way the first time, we may not be having this discussion,
Right.
but it wasn't brought up the proper way the first time.
And it was not run by Burkeville.
No, and it
the
wasn't
first
fair.
time, and it wasn't fair to Burkeville.
That wasn't fair.
All right. So this is not on the agenda. I found this out this evening. Mr. Mayor Welch called me, and evidently John had already had a copy of it. He sent me some things electronic. Sherman, I really need you to go back in your archive brain and come and tell me what happened in 1995.
Can I read this real quick?
Yeah.
All right,
I mean,
this was the notice that was posted, and it was.
Well, let me back up.
Okay.
I said to keep. What he's talking about, y'all remember where the old dumpster site was?
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm gonna tell you what I'm concerned about. The old dumpster site, so it's that triangle, and we sold that to Brian.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It looks like in 1995, Burkeville did a boundary line adjustment and took that in 1995, and we sold land that may be in Burkeville, so we may owe them some money.
Got it. So if you.
All right, ready? Okay.
All right, this was from July 6, 1995, Crew Burkeville Journal, says legal notice, the town of Burkeville and the county of Nottoway, Virginia have entered into an agreement dated June 15, 1995 to relocate or change the boundary line between them. The boundary line of the town of Burkeville shall be adjusted to include the area described below, bounded by the northern right-of-way of the Norfolk Southern Railroad line north of Route 460 on the east by State Highway number 723, on the south by southern right-of-way of the Norfolk Southern Railroad line south of Route 460, and on the west by the eastern boundary line of the town of Burkeville. A copy of the agreement may be obtained in the town office of Burkeville, and a copy is posted at the front door of the courthouse of the Nottoway County Circuit Court and the town hall, in the town hall of the town of Burkeville. Within 30 days after the second publication of this notice, the town of Burkeville and the county of Nottoway shall petition the Circuit Court of Nottoway County, Virginia, to enter an order establishing the new boundary lines by authority of Ronnie E. Rourke.
It was in 95.
Yes, ma'am.
1995, and what land, And fully, actually, so, let me just say this. He called me right at, 4:30 this evening. When he's talking about, let me see if I can find it, John, it's the orange is what he said.
This, right here.
Is that plot right there?
That's it.
So that's it. You see that little spot right there? Right. And that's perfect.
That's what, that's where the old dump site used to be.
Mr. Chairman.
But see, I'm wondering if they did it, and it did get,
That's it.
2.9, and that's what we sold it right. How do we proceed? I need somebody to tell me how to handle this situation.
Okay, who owned the land?
Say what?
Who owned the land?
That we'd have to go back into the archive. to
Well,
find
so
out.
I'm going by Steve Morenfrank, okay, which is spooky. In '95, that's about when we moved the dumpster site over because I was living, so did we move the dumpster site and then did the boundary thing? And then did the boundary adjustment? The police chair break
But I see what you're saying.
break my $5,000 jacket.
I see what you're saying. Who owned the land? Who was the landowner?
Yeah, so
Doesn't matter whether it was whether it was at Breakfast. Who owned the land? That's right.
this is simple to figure out. Who owned the land?
That's right, we just need to go back to the records to see.
If the county owned land in Matthews County, if the county owned land in Matthews County, it's in another jurisdiction, but the county owns the land. The county sells the land, the county gets the profit.
Okay,
The land doesn't move.
but if something builds there, that's inside their town.
Once they do the boundary line.
The economic development, right, if they put up sheets there, that's
Yeah.
their,
Well, and according to this, it looks like Burford's town limits goes up to 723.
Okay, but anytime you do a boundary line adjustment, if I own land and I'm in the county and the boundary line comes over.
I understand, it's just like
I
the
still
our
own
land in
land.
Fort Pickett, it's in Fort Pickett, but we own the land.
the boundary line doesn't have anything who owns it.
I don't think it does.
So it's almost like the town of Blackstone. We own the land inside the town of Blackstone.
I don't mean to be flippant.
No.
I can make it number 59 and,
Well, no,
look into
no.
it. I mean, but
But what I was worried about, we might need to make it number 2.
We owned that land at that time.
All
The
right,
county owned the land.
right, but,
It's own general business. Steve was in yesterday, Brian was in yesterday. We were chatting about that piece because we've talked about it in the past and what its possibilities are gonna be. So we're gonna be looking at that, what we can do, help him.
yeah, okay, helping to get some kind of development there.
Yes, and one of the things I talked to him about is like wall or something like that, and, nice place for people when they enter this area. It's got the position up there, that was
Okay.
last year, but it's clearly hard as general business.
So some reason, somebody probably didn't, I guess I'm asking this, somebody didn't record it or somewhere or something. Something was dropped there.
Yeah, it's on there. No, all I have to do is look at the records.
It was in the county land, the county sold it to Brian. So it had nothing to do with that.
I don't think the zoning, it's nice to know what they want to do with it. I think that's great. But if the county owned the land.
Okay, no, I got you, no, I got you, I'm past that,
Yeah.
I'm past that, yeah.
Okay.
But I just wanna know, maybe I'm the only one, did anybody else, did everybody know that was in the boundary line inside the town? That's what shocked me, I've always, and the reason why I assumed that, because the dumpster was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the whole dumpster site.
And just so you don't understand what he's talking about, and I'm not saying that you don't, I just want to clarify,
I don't have
where our,
history.
where our county, convenience center site is right now. All right, you come back, is eastbound 460.
Right.
You shoot across 723, dumpster was sitting right there.
Right
The
across
section
from-
between 723 and 360.
Right across the land we just sold to that developer.
In other words, where they're entering into the Frito-Lay place, just a few feet to the south finished over that 723, little short section of 723. That's where the old dumpsters usually at.
So is there, the concern is,
Does the county still own that section on the back section where that was a flag?
we'd have to pull up GIS.
And I think what I'm getting at too, what I'm saying is, and I'm not sure about that, but I believe the first boundary line adjustment they made came out of the crew, it was bumping on that. In other words, they might have drew a line, didn't even know the line was there. You know, I'm not sure.
Well, are you going by the GIS because there's a shift in where the overlays are. It's a photo vector, I think, or correction. And almost every parcel you look at in the county, you're going to have a layer on top. But the parcel line, the actual parcel lines are over a little bit.
Okay.
It's not like bird's eye view. There's going to be some photo correction needed. So because I deal with that every day, and well, that's all my property. I go, no, that is not your. Here's your property line. Here's the fence line. See the fence line from the GIS. That's traditionally those have been.
Well, let me tell you, let me just ask you this. I'm sorry. We ain't got a pencil, so where's the whiteboard?
Right, Ed?
Right there.
So, maybe I can. So what I'm asking, this is what I understand about boundary line adjustment. So here's the road we're talking about. And over here is the Frito-Lay.
Right.
Okay, and then the land looks just like this, like a V, 360 this way, 460 this way. So we talk about, Burkeville's got a line here. Okay, if they do development here, I'm asking the question, and they have to get water from the county crew, which is over here now, because it's hooked up to this Frito-Lay thing. Can they do that?
Yeah.
All right, well, so the boundary line adjustment, a boundary line doesn't mean you can't cross over.
That's right.
The reason I'm asking you, could they change their boundary line and took the whole thing?
I think what happened, well, not to interrupt y'all.
No.
I think what happened was, I was telling John real quick, I think that the county had proposed to build a new dumpster site. And I think Joe, or maybe some of the council members, even before Joe, maybe Mr. Eames, had gone to the county and said, well, if y'all want that, we'd like to have the property. I think is what happened.
Yeah, so I thought if you do a boundary line adjustment, let's say Burkeville went further, how can they could take this boundary line as long as the town crew is serving it with the water, can't they?
You can't stop it.
Well, you can't sell utilities across another person's boundary line.
Right.
Without their permission. Utilities is a sticky part of that.
The reason I'm bringing it up, because the crew's gonna probably come to us about a boundary line, and Burkeville might come to us about a boundary line. We need to be prepared about these boundary lines. You understand what I'm saying? Because it could be, are you with me, Greg, when I'm asking?
I think we got clarification on the sale.
It looks like a house. I know it looks like a house, but it's not.
So I guess I'm still struggling with the original issue. Is the original issue the county owned the land, sold the land,
That's done.
and Burkeville is looking for?
If crew was to hit, listen to me, Ted.
Okay.
If crew comes along and says, I'm taking over Piedmont, I guarantee you Burkeville will say, I want some more boundaries. I'm telling this board, you better be ready.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I think what we're probably looking at may come to a mutual meeting at 7:23. Burkeville extending to 7:23, crew extending to 7:23.
But I was trying to figure out the rules. In other words, if crew is I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry. If crew was serving this area, the Frito-Lay, if Burkeville says, I will have, no, I want that 17 acres, I remember the acres, 17 acres. And then, but crew says, well, okay, I'll let you do that, but we're taking Piedmont. So we can build. So I don't know. Did you?
It could, but I don't know.
No, I don't know. I think that's why we got a boundary line wall. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I honestly don't think it's as bad as it may appear.
Okay, I
I
hope
think
not.
those two are closer to getting in the room together than we believe.
2 hours is what I said. That's what I said, but that's what the email said, 2 hours. You don't take a break?
No,
Yeah, take a
not
break.
right now.
No, take a break.
Well, then he said you take one in 33
That's why I
minutes.
stopped Ted, because I didn't wanna, anyway, all right. You with me? I mean, you don't know. what you're doing.
I'll work.
The point of the work session is what I'm trying to tell you, is y'all be prepared, that was.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's.
I understand what you're saying.
Ted, you know what I'm saying now, I mean.
I think I got it.
Right, it's not, I'm not worried about selling the land now, you're correct, man.
That additional thought. would be awesome.
So running, going back, Blackstone is, we're asking a letter from town of Blackstone that show the surplus the line they want. We are going forward the public hearing with town and crew, as we already said, nothing anymore.
Right.
And Burkeville was just an eye opener to say, hey, the boundary line may be in a spot we didn't know was there. Right. Okay. Now, let's go back to page 5, number 27, 26.
All right.
Well, we're page 5 tonight, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna go back to, keep on moving.
Okay, back on this,
All
okay.
right.
Just so you know, we can probably rapid fire through
Okay.
the rest of the agenda once we get through this. All right, registrar's office location. As with temporary registrar's office, site alterations have been discussed, as well as utilization of ARPA funds. Ms. Tomer and I kind of walked the complex the other day. We think we have a location. It would be easy to tie into sewer. I'm not so sure about the water.
Okay.
However, this ain't the first time we've done this rodeo, so Katie, you were talking about Mr. Prosice's work?
Oh, in reference to a mobile facility?
Yes.
I mean, he sized out, we had a great conversation about it.
Yeah,
He sized out something at the time, the registrar at the time seemed suitable to the space. Because you have to have voting space, office space, storage space. And so he reached out to some company, he sized out the structure. And I know at the time he obtained a price quote, $300,000.
Yeah.
So we know the ability is there. It's just the board's intentions and time.
And we could use, we've also looked at maybe coming up and using the front portion of the pulley property, not that has just been disturbed and everything, but the front portion.
Mhm.
Easy to tie into the water, maybe not so much the sewer. So we're talking 6 of one, half a dozen other, or a couple of locations. But the size of the facility, and this quote was done, this is a multiple office.
20,
Between
21.
2 and 3 years ago.
Okay, so you know you're looking at better than $300,000.
Yeah,
All right,
more than.
vehicle replacement plan, we've used the sheriff's vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to keep Burkeville School. School board needs to go into Burkeville School and give the school board office to the registrar's office. They'd be centered in the county.
You think the school would do that?
What is most feasible for the taxpayers in Nottoway County? Let's
The
just be-
registrar's office where it is right now, it should be back at the complex.
The main complex?
It be back here at Nottoway. That's the way I feel about it. It should be here.
All right, let's
That's
keep
what I
moving on
thought.
and keep,
Yeah.
get a feel, yeah, I got you, okay, let's keep moving on.
So vehicle replacement plan, we've used the sheriff's turnover vehicles for the emergency management coordinator. We're going to, this coming budget, we're going to seek a multi-passenger vehicle to replace the van, which is fine. Those of you who've ridden in the van recently know that it smells of oil.
I still taste it.
Yeah.
In my mouth.
Wow.
I've eaten a lot since then.
And it doesn't matter who drives it, correct, Mr. Wolf?
That's right. Doesn't matter who drives it.
Yeah, or how they drive it.
You'll smell like a mechanic shop when you drive.
All right, the solar committee ordinances revisions, I think you all know the history here. Ordinances went to public hearing, did not progress, citing comprehensive plan update. So what's the next thing on the list? Number 30, comprehensive plan update. I think you know, joint public hearing held, staff is reviewing comments received and will make recommendations to the planning commission board within the week. The Fort Pickett joint land use study implementation, copy was provided. This is the directive, beginning directive. Copy was provided to the CRC for use in the comprehensive plan. This may be of use in consideration of the fort's name change, and this will be ongoing for years. Now, on this point, please continue to hold March 24. That is the working date for the name change ceremony out at Pickett Garfoot.
March 28th.
March 24th. And the issue, and this is something that I've just gotten some information from Colonel Shaver just last week. There are some mechanisms for the LRA to do a name change and have those costs picked up by the federal government. There are mechanisms for the businesses that are out there to do name changes and if they're associated with Fort Pickett or Pickett Park or anything like that. The underlying question is, and this is really an authority issue, not a board of supervisors issue, but pretty much the same. Do you all want to consider changing the LRA Fort Pickett LRA, everything having to do on that property over from Pickett to Barfoot or something else? Obviously not a discussion or decision.
No,
Yeah, it's something that, but if you want to do it, money is available to redo signage, redo stationery, redo everything.
Let's stop ordering stuff before we do that and use what we got, and then, because Mr. Vaughn's over there sweating right now, talking about spending money.
All right,
I don't like to spend money
That's right,
unnecessarily.
that's right.
okay, Pickett Park, we're kind of in this LRA issue. This is the county-owned business park, needs marketing and additional staff. This has really been tagged for Greg as the economic development, but he's been discussing with the new LRA maintenance supervisor, Mr. Hawkins, and he's been in contact with the Tobacco Commission and the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. Our facilities out there are at best a tier 1 or a tier 2. And what that means is we have some of the bells and whistles, but we don't have all the bells and whistles.
We have a bill.
The glass is half empty in Mr. Zoe's. So, we've got some rail out there. We've got some rail spurs. We've got decent roads going out there. But the big list, I mean, if you really want a tier 4 facility, you gotta have rail, you gotta have 3-phase electric. Companies want solar. I said it, companies want solar. You gotta have water, you gotta have a lot of water, you gotta have sewer, natural gas. I think I've mentioned to you all that we were on the list for a client. We had the rail spur, but we didn't have the natural gas. So we've got to do, we've got to do the best we can with what we've got. And that means, and we'll get to this later, fixing up what we got. Zoning subdivision, what Mr. Azevedo has daily activities of permit approval enforcement. This is an ongoing routine function. I would say after the comp plan, the plan would be to start revising those ordinances, and this is probably a 2-year project if done in-house. Economic development prospects. We have one in play now. We've lost one, as I said, due to the lack of natural gas. We had an inquiry by VEDP for a 25,000 square foot building, but that puts you in the tier 4 group. Identification site, economic development site identification development. This is VEDP records have been updated. And these records are being maintained every 6 months. I think prior to that, it hadn't been touched.
Not in a while, no, but I've been updating them since I've updated them twice since I've been here. And then Michelle Menendez with VDP reached out to me late last week, and I gave her all the zoned parcels that we have at Pickett Park. But after, FASE came in and stuff, it's reduced our inventory some, but I need to do a real nice inventory and kind of give you all a layout what assertions are available.
All right, established the economic development program, and this is really kind of where, we discussed, Greg and I have been reviewing the committee handbook, And there's your discussions on reinstituting that as well as the IDA. Basically, this is ongoing. We really need to kind of maybe have a work session on
All
that.
right, let's stop right there, because I want to make sure we touch on some good stuff tonight, and I am gonna stop the meeting at 2 hours, and we're gonna rapid fire, we gotta rapid, because we gotta go for 50-something here. So somebody stop the committee.
Initial last meeting, I was sitting there.
There, my middle name ain't Olive.
I'm looking at, why are you looking at me?
So,
It is, that's what we got.
baby though.
but listen, so we stopped the committees and we want to get them started back up. You know, we're talking about ad hoc committees. I think the economic development committee is a very important committee. I really feel like that. And I feel like that we brought, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like we brought Zodi in and asked him to help economic development, but we haven't given any wings to fly. We haven't got a budget for it. We haven't got a committee for it. And we need that to help him go in the direction that right now, I feel like he's just putting out fires and not planning like we want to get to. So I would be in the favor, you know, actually you don't supposed to speak in here, but anyway,
I know, I'm sorry.
I would be totally in favor of getting the economic development committee back together, and we meet the Thursday after, like we used to, Mr. Bond and Helen, I think you did, and maybe you were here when John Weaver did it, the Thursday after the Board of Supervisors, which would be the fourth Thursday, was that right? And about placed in here. I wanted more of a roundtable discussion. I think I like the idea. Let's just have an honest discussion. I like the idea of maybe having the board on there. The vice chair would be the chair. The mayor from each town and a town council member from each.
So that's just like it was before.
Is that what it was? Okay, I couldn't remember. Is that, John Reed?
I think,
And only one of the town's representatives were tasked with voting.
and if you go back, we had a commission at one time, Economic Development Commission. Maynard Austin was the director. And then we decided to disband the commission and form a committee. And we put all 5 members of our board on there. We put one from each of the towns, with the town managers being the support group. They were the workers.
Okay.
If you go back and look at the motion, I made the motion to do that.
I'm sorry.
I think, see where I disagree with you, I think that the chairman needs to be rotated. Because what you're saying is that the board is gonna always share this meeting when someone from Blackstone Club could do that. I think the chairmanship should be rotated or either.
Yeah. I think that's what I was trying to say, that on the board side, that the chairman, the vice chair would be the chairman. And then when he becomes the chairman, the next vice chair is the chairman of the economic development.
No, you're still missing my point.
I am missing.
What did he say is?
Because you're having our board control this thing. When I'm saying that the town should also be able to be chairman and let it rotate.
What he's saying is rotate the chairman between the county, Blackstone, Crew, Brookville, and then come back. So rotate it that way. So the chairman is from each.
I'm fine with that. I mean, anyway.
Is that correct, Mr. Vaughn? That's what you were saying, is rotated by the locality?
And I think, if I remember the way the old one said, because it's just conversations that I heard before the committee was disbanded, was that the board had set that up previously like that, so that towns couldn't take a vote and force the county into actions. In other words, they had one voting member from each town, but it would be, in other words,
But the voting member's got to be the one that's the chair.
right.
Yeah, I mean, the chairman's got to be both.
And John, all 5 of our numbers are on there.
And that's what I'm saying, I think that's the reason why y'all set that up like that.
That's why I made the motion. You go back and look at the records, you'll
Yeah.
see.
In other
Some
words,
time ago. So that our 5 members will be able to see what was going on.
I remember Mr. Rourke telling me that, he says, in other words, you didn't want more voting members than the 5 members of the board of supervisors, because then they could vote the county into, through that commission, and force the county to do something that they weren't willing to do.
Helen, what's your thought on that?
My motion was for one member from the town.
Well, just like we had it set up, we
Yes,
had
that's how
five
it's
board
set up.
members,
Right.
we had one from each town. We had the mayor, cause Joe was on there, Phil was, the last ones that we had was Joe,
Well,
Phil.
Larry came. Phil didn't come very much.
No,
She meant crew.
I'm talking about crew.
Are they gonna know Larry Curly?
No, he barely came. The town manager would not.
No, the town manager,
He would not be.
no.
one of
But
the
this-
workers.
What could that mean? Do you, I mean,
Yeah.
the committee, I hear you, the committee, I mean, anybody can come and listen.
Right.
whatever they
Oh,
want.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right, right.
Well, Mr. Bowen, Mr. Chairman, should we maybe back up on this with letting the towns decide who they want their voting member to be?
All right, so you get to my point. How do we unpack this? How do we invite, how do we do this, Ted? You see what I'm, Greg, you're
We
working
set
out.
it up, you set it up just like we did before.
Okay,
And
have a charter or whatever.
Then the towns would know.
Okay. All right,
And they can choose who they want to choose.
all right, so, but this is what, let me
But
go
we
back.
said that the town managers would also be a part of the work.
All right, so this is what we're not very good at, in my opinion.
Say what?
Okay, so hold tight, we got time, hold tight. So this is what I feel like we're not very good at, and I gotta ask Katie this. We need to have a budget for economic development. Okay, so let's say we budget, I'm gonna make it simple, $50,000 more for economic development. If we budget and we only spend $20,000, so that leaves us 30, and next year we budget 50, do we have now 80? You hear what I'm kidding, is it a cumulative?
Cumulative thing.
Right, because if we have to buy land or something, I gotta have a budget.
So,
Mhm.
renovation, I guess, I want Katie to answer your question, but I'm going to take we already have a budget in the larger budget, a departmental budget. What you're talking about is putting some gas in the tank,
Okay.
like $50,000 for marketing or something along those
Right,
lines.
right. But I want a cumulative budget and take budget in case,
So yes, there's a carryover aspect.
Yeah, instead of returning it back to the general fund, you want it to remain as a carryover. back to that.
because we don't know what, we're dealing with three towns.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And they may say, I'm just using Burke example, so when we put down a shelter, let's say, hey, we need some starter money to build a shell building there.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, well, how much do we have in it for a shell build? I'm just throwing it out there to help you get started, and then, I mean, can the Economic Development Committee, can they borrow money?
Well, and this is what I'm gonna tell you now, when I believe authority is a way that I cautiously would say I wouldn't wanna do, and I'll explain to you why. They can borrow money, authority can't. But each town, I believe, already has an authority, I think. I know Blackstone does. I think Crew and Burkeville may have pretty much like an IDA. Okay, so he gave him some, so the borrowing power is something that the county can't manage. But that, once you create an authority, the authority can borrow money.
With an ordinance, yes, it's created with an
Right,
ordinance.
so, and so that's the reason why I'm saying, I don't wanna create a situation where there's another authority out there borrowing money, and it might fall back on the responsibility of the county, something we didn't put it, that we didn't sign off to borrow.
Okay.
All right, and then, each town will have a voting member, and I believe that an authority would create division amongst the towns. Let me explain it. 3 voting members from the town.
Okay.
And if, let's say, because we got 3 towns, I'm just gonna pick one. Let's say Burkeville decides that they wanna borrow money through the authority for a project in Burkeville.
Okay.
Well, what if one of the other towns say, well, you didn't agree with me for here, now you see what's happening, nothing's getting done. That's the reason why I said, well, we should stay away from an authority and use either a commission or committee.
See, this is why, if you would notice, before Crew sold their industrial park, they had 3 buildings there. The county was the one that put those buildings up.
Okay.
We financed those buildings.
So a committee would be the way to go, or commission, or whatever you wanna call it. Okay.
I would say, what's the plus and minuses with commission, what's the plus and minus with committee?
So this is what I think. Maybe I got the cart way ahead of the horse. Let's develop the committee, and then let's have this conversation for the first Economic Development Committee, how we gonna handle things.
I'll tell you my last note on that right there. It said
You're
basically,
not taking credit for this.
I'm just sharing my thoughts, and this is what's scary. The scary part is that we're on the same page, and basically I said, get this created, meaning the committee, commission, and should the first assignment be to determine a line item or amount of funds needed so Zodi can have working capital to shop our potential.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, you saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And we gotta give Greg some empowerment at something so he can help put out some products, so we can, but we gotta get our towns to agree on
That's
things, we gotta figure that out.
That's right.
And another thing that we're not good at, I say we're not good at, but for the previous economic development committee, the person who's representing needs to take it back to their council, and say, hey, this is what we talked about. All right, so.
That's why we set it up like we did.
Right.
and we should make sure there's some follow-up with that, and basically make sure, even if nothing else, that there's a memo signed off or minutes signed off, sent back to the mayors, the council members, just take everybody and make sure everybody's getting a copy of that. And maybe that takes, because anything can happen, anybody can get something.
That should be part of the town council meeting. I mean, if you serve on a committee, you need to come back and.
It should be a standing agenda.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
we
right.
should,
Standing
just
agenda.
forward our minutes or whatever, if it gets done, forward it to them and let them place it on the agenda if they want to discuss it.
So, all right, I'm breaking down to 10 more minutes. So we stop Mr. Costin. I say we, I did. I'm sorry, Mr. Costin. On number 34. We mentioned already before, budget is always a problem. Let's go down, let's hold these other items for the next meeting, Mr. Costin. I want to go to the personal property tax report.
Okay.
Because that's something we have got to be thinking about in the next couple of months. I mean, we got to be thinking a lot of stuff here, and the planning commission will report, but I just don't think we're not going to cover everything tonight.
Sorry, if I can, then just let me do one thing.
Okay.
Your handouts on the tobacco commission, can you just give those? And that way you all have all.
And then we can put on the agenda for a discussion next time.
Yeah, just go ahead and get those out. All right,
Thank you.
so you want to talk about the personal property tax report?
Right, like we did a text, we brought the levy down.
You
That's how I said
love
it.
it when I say this. I got some good news for you and I got some bad news for you. Okay.
So like, I'm at home.
Just read it one sentence.
Okay, I'll go.
Steve, this is being recorded.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, so she can see it.
So you can see it.
So,
I'll be
The
Motel
personal-
6 until I leave the light on for you.
the personal property tax, so I'm going to give you the bad news first. You also have in your packet an email exchange between myself and Dr. Brown concerning, if you all did not hear about this, I was drinking my morning coffee and listening to the national news, and he said, oh, in Virginia, the Department of Education miscalculated their funding formula. And all the localities, the school system, the districts, and all the localities are getting less
400,000
money.
less?
Yeah.
That's right.
You have in the packet what the numbers are. And again, this is from the email exchange that I had with Dr. Grimes. It's number F or letter F. And what she says, based on current information, we would lose $123,674 in state funding this fiscal year and $305,561 in state funding next fiscal year. So obviously, we can work, now's the time to be working with the FY24 number, but we have to deal with the shortage of 123,674 on the school board side. Okay. So personal property came in approximately $700,000 short of budgeted figure. So when we talked about this last year, this time, and I said, this is what's happening with used cars.
I'm sorry, what sheet are you on?
I'm not on a sheet, I'm just giving you information.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to follow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
I
using
went
those.
to F on the agenda, John, so I'm following that too.
Yeah, no, I saw that, but I was wondering what he.
No, I'm just looking at my notes. So when I mentioned this, I mentioned last year that personal, the used car values, unprecedented, were holding or going up in value. This was going to impact personal property. If you played with the rates, try to do it in a manner that was revenue neutral. And if you had a little bit of extra money, what some would refer to as a windfall, direct that into the communication systems. Dedicate that to a capital project and one that's really, really important. Board went in the direction to try to get it as low as possible, and we missed the revenue neutral mark by $700,000. However, our other revenue streams are kind of taking the pressure off.
I mean, you say 700 to the negative.
$700,000 short of what was
Of what
budgeted.
and we budgeted,
We budgeted $3,226,534, and we've collected through January $2,500,000.
So we short that much revenue.
We're short that much
Okay.
revenue. However, the other revenue streams are holding.
Right.
We're holding. Plus, we are, our expenditures are running less than anticipated. Keeping it in, I'm looking at numbers, through January.
All right,
So we're okay. We're okay. But $700,000 doesn't give you that cushion to absorb a hit like we're taking off on the school board right now. So as you enter the,
So how do we, John, you were gonna say something, I apologize, go ahead.
all right, number one, 700,000 short, but we still have time to recover. All right, and when I say that, people can still come and pay the taxes, right?
yes.
Okay.
The bulk of the tax payment has been done.
Okay, all right, I can understand,
And
96%,
people
right?
always come in there.
You know, that figure doesn't come out until you do final collections with the audit. That's what things are budgeted by, and it was actually 98%.
Okay, so let me wrap my head around this. Wait, you're saying the recovery roughly is 98%?
I'm saying I budgeted 98% of the taxable value.
All right, and I thought I heard something
The
somewhere
fiscal
about
year 22
96.
collections rate was 96%.
Okay, all right, here's the other thing I'm curious about. Some numbers was given to the press of an initial windfall of about $800,000. And I think that backed up to a little over $600,000. Okay, so if that was the suggested windfall was a little over $600,000 and we're $700,000 short, how are we not $100,000 short? Does that make sense?
Because your first number was based on a higher rate.
Okay.
This is your actual rate result right here.
So when we lowered the rate, we lost $700,000 in revenue.
Off of, to be from what I've.
I thought it was gonna be nowhere near 300.
Well, to balance the budget, based on the numbers we were given, at that lower rate, we balanced the budget by cutting some things. If you remember, we actually cut into the, we cut into capital money, we cut into the board's discretionary fund, we got that budget to balance. But where we had said, let's try to keep it revenue neutral, in other words, let's try to keep the same amount of money we got the year before. We missed that, and then we missed this, because Mr. Ward, what the numbers you're citing, that windfall number was based on the higher rate. When it came down, okay, what happened was the revenue dropped more than was anticipated.
All right, hold that, man, my word, let's slow it up. Okay, so we keep this stuff on that, let's absorb that this is good stuff. That's the stuff we need to be thinking about instead of telling Katie in May 31st what we want to do. You know, she's got to know which way we're headed. So let's check these numbers out and be thinking about that. So just to follow up then, on number 3 on the priority list, we stopped on number 34. We added zoning to the website. We're talking about that in budget and audit reports. We think that's already there. We talked about contracts, 3-year, keeping the auditors. We put it in the box of what we're going to do about the lawyer, but the staff recommend 3 years as well. April, it's adoption of the EOP, right, buddy? We're talking about maybe
Right.
March, April. The animal control design should be coming out, and the courthouse facility plan. I just wrote that down because I didn't know what else to write. I was getting tired.
Steve, cars are beginning, especially used cars are beginning to come down, so that's.
Okay, so that's good. Then you have to be thinking about that.
I
Okay.
did talk to the commissioner yesterday, and
Yes,
she
sir.
absolutely told me the same thing.
Okay. So that's good news. And hey, look, I think and I think it came from John, yeah, it did, and the commissioner, that, you know, we're trying to give them some relief. I think we made the right decision to give relief, because it's hard not to give people relief because they look at how much money you got in the bank and they wonder why ain't you giving us relief. But we gotta get back on track too, because, you know, you keep cutting revenue, and then I say, man, I want something to eat out the bottom. So, you know, we gotta figure that out. Presentation next month, maybe crew, possibly, depending on how much, you know, I don't know. I'm gonna listen to what they got to say, but I ain't making no decision. They're coming back to the table.
Yeah.
And if y'all have another presentation that you'd like to hear, Katie or,
Well, we didn't get to it, but I'd like to make a suggestion that you do a work session as the LRA. You're going to get a good report Thursday night on what Shane's been doing.
okay,
And I would encourage that the LRA do a work session out at the, start out at the Officers Club.
okay,
Do a quick little tour,
okay.
see 2 or 3, 4 things as samples of what he's dealing with.
We ain't gonna ride that,
We're gonna run
smoke
the
shack
van, we're
off.
gonna run the van, yes, we are, we're gonna run the van.
I'm sorry.
Y'all gonna have to give- They gonna have to give me half a second.
All right,
We haven't even written it.
any more discussion from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion to, I'm gonna enter, you got, I want Sean to do it. I entertain a motion to do,
I so moved.
Second. I ain't gonna get a second, go ahead and stand up. Thank y'all for coming. I appreciate, we had representation from both sides of all sides of the county, Blackstone, Burkeville, and I think, yeah, you from Crew area. So I appreciate y'all coming. Buddy, good job. Zodi, and of course, my bouncer over there, Andrea, she took the place of the sheriff.
She was one up top time.
So,
I was
thank-
gonna watch it at home, but there's no cameras here.
yeah, good work session.
Tom, just go to the we need Uber service.
We don't need a motion.
I was gonna see if he called, I was gonna say, we don't make work since the work session.
Well, we can't. I was told we can't.
Oh, is that where they put you upstairs? Oh, you need to know, they that'd be a nice little.
People talk about, it, nobody